Hello and welcome to Global EduTalks, your window to study abroad. This show is trying to connect all international students around the world to connect with direct university people who come here in the show and speak about their university. Today we're talking about a destination which is very popular among international students, not just with education but also with international global exposure. We have Montfort University from UK. To speak about the university, we have Martin Booth, the Senior Regional Manager for Montfort University, with us today. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Well, thanks very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me. And I have to say, it's a real pleasure to be in Nepal and back in here in Kathmandu. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure that you found our time to come to our show, and then we'll speak a lot about Montfort University. Take us to the journey where, what is Montfort University? How is it better for international students? And what are the programs that you offer for international students?
Okay, well, if I give a sort of a very brief overview of the university. So we're a pretty big university in the UK. We've been around since 1870. We have around about 24,000 students. Approximately half of those students are international students. So we have many home students and we have many international students. And we actually have students from more than 130 countries around the world. But what I would say is that we also have particularly large numbers of students from the South Asia region, which is obviously what I particularly want to talk about today. In terms of our course offering, I think that's one of the really important things about the university, in that we have a very broad offering. So first of all, from a level, we're teaching undergraduate, postgraduate and research. And in terms of the number of courses, I'm pleased to say I don't actually know because it's quite a big number, but it's between about 150 and 200. And if I was to give you a very high level overview of the course areas, we're talking things like business, law, computing. If I give you an example, computing, I think we have 7 or 8 different kinds of courses. Engineering, media, we have health courses, life science courses, art courses, design courses. We also have many courses which tend to be those kind of very popular go-to courses, international business management, for instance, cyber security. But we also have lots of very sort of niche courses, footwear design, shall we say, architecture. So I think one of the interesting things about students that might be thinking about studying in the UK and maybe at Montfort University, or DMU as we like to call ourselves, it's really important that students have a real look at our entire course offering, because they might find that not only do we have that generic kind of course offering, but maybe something specific that they're looking for. So yeah, that's a bit of an overview. And I think the other thing, which maybe we could talk about in a bit more detail as we converse, is that DMU, we have 2 campuses in the UK. We have one in Leicester, which is our home campus, if you like, and we now also have a campus in central London.
Wow, it's like quite a good amount of information that you gave it right there in the introduction part. And also good to know that there are 24,000 students, where almost around 50% students are international students. So that means you must be needing, let's say, a few thousand faculties to cater all these students. How many faculties do you have?
We actually have 3 faculties. Okay. So we have the business and law faculty, we have the computing, engineering and media, or TAC faculty we like to call it, which incorporates the art and creative courses as well. And then we have a health and life science faculty. And just to give you an idea, without going into a great deal of detail, in Leicester we have a pretty big campus. We're very lucky, it's a very compact campus in the centre of the city, but we have around about 40 plus buildings. Some of those buildings are extremely old and historic, and of course we have many very modern high-tech buildings that are really state of the art and what you'd expect from a quality university in the UK.
Yeah, and then a few thousand members that you have, like the teaching and the support staffs and everything?
Yeah, so in terms of staff, we have just under 3,000 staff. You'll be pleased to hear, or not pleased to hear, that not all of those are academic staff.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's very important that we have the best academics to teach students, but specifically international students, we need and want to be giving them the support they need. So we also have a multitude of different teams and individuals and organisations who can support students, international students, depending on what their needs are, from the very sort of generic student advice centres, international support, to more specific support centres and people as well.
Okay, and also like you have campus, the global campus, as I said, the home campus in Leicester, and also you have a new campus in central London. So what's the preferred destination for international students? Do they want to go to central London and study, or they're okay with coming to Leicester and then study?
Okay, I think from our perspective, and as I've already kind of alluded to in terms of our course offering, what we want to do is give students choice. And so I think in terms of, say, the London campus, in terms of the academia side of it, it's very similar because it is DMU. It's not a third-party university. Exactly. So we have DMU staff teaching there. But what I would say is that many students may just prefer, I want to be in London. Exactly. If we use maybe the Nepalese example, some people just want to live in Kathmandu. And there can be also examples where international students, maybe they have family or friends that are living in London, and so they want to live with them. So it's really more about choice and giving students those kind of options that they can choose from.
Okay, and then does it also, like, is there any let's say connections that comes with let's say expenses, right? So is Leicester campus and central London campus almost the same when it comes to fees and tuition fees, living expense and everything, or is it much, let's say, a little cheaper and on Leicester campus than going to central London?
Yeah, that's a really key point there. You've hit that on the head. So in terms of the university, our tuition fees in London are exactly the same as in our home campus in Leicester, and that's something that we've done once again to give those students the choice. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, London is a international tourist centre. Mm-hmm. It's a business city, so the cost of living in London is significantly more than Leicester. In fact, I'd say that is one of the key advantages of Leicester. And maybe just to talk briefly about that, in terms of the geography of Leicester, we're actually only an hour and 6 minutes by train to central London.
Okay, so tell us about, let's say, some of the popular programs that international students would go for. As you said, you have almost everything in your campus, right? In your home campus, the bigger campus, and all the opportunities that they can go for. But what if you have to pick, let's say, 3 to 4 programs that international students will pick, what programs would they be in the undergrad and the grad level?
Followed by project management from that faculty. In terms of the second faculty, computing, engineering, media, we obviously, as I've already mentioned, have several computing type courses, and one of the really popular ones at the moment is cybersecurity. Okay. That's quite a specific course, but from an employability perspective, that's an absolutely excellent course. And then I'd say maybe talking in another go-to course would be engineering management. So if I was to pick 3 really go-to courses, I would pick those. But at the same time, and maybe we could talk about this a bit later, I would really encourage students not to just go for those generic courses. And I think that's one of the important things that I really wanted to communicate today, is that maybe when students are getting advice, someone might just steer them to one of those generic courses. You're an international person, you want to do business, go to international business management. But I'd really suggest that you look at those multitude of other courses that we have that are maybe similar, but might be more specific, might be something that they would enjoy much more. And crucially, bearing in mind that's going to lead them onto a career that they're going to be spending years and years doing, to really look at those other course options and to make sure that the ones that they're going for, or they go for, is the one that's most suited to where they want to end up.
Okay, so I understand that in the grad level, you need to have some prerequisites or you need to come from the same background. For the undergrad, let's say a management student who would want to go for a cybersecurity program, so can they go and take it even though they don't have any computer or maths or other experiences?
For undergraduate, they would need a relevant sort of background. They would have had to have studied some computing as part of their previous studies. But at the same time, we do have standard entry criteria as well, which we can talk about if you like.
Sure,
but yeah. So where there's something specific, and then maybe taking that a little bit further. So if you have a student that maybe wanted to do something maybe creative, they wanted to do fine art, shall we say, then of course we would want to see a portfolio of their previous work to make sure that they would be at an appropriate level to get the most that they can from one of those
similar
courses.
For music or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So now with the heavy talking, let's go to an interesting part of the segment today. That's rapid fire question.
Okay.
Now we'll not give you that much of time to answer. I'll just throw a bunch of questions at you and then you just have split seconds to answer them.
Okay.
Are you ready, Martin?
I'm ready.
Rapid fire section. Let's go one by one. One word to describe student life at DMU.
Happy.
Happy. Leicester or London? Which city do students enjoy more?
Leicester.
One hidden course students should prepare for.
Okay, I think this is something where I can talk quite nicely about, because this hidden cost doesn't really relate to DMU in Leicester, and that's the cost of public transport.
What surprises international students the most in the UK?
The superficial one is the weather. The weather isn't as bad as people make out. Actually, we have a pretty clement lifestyle. But I think being more sort of generous in terms of the answer, that would be how welcoming the UK is and how international the UK is. The UK genuinely is very diverse in terms of the people that live there and where they've come from.
Early applicant or last minute? What works better?
Well, that's an easy one, early. One of the real challenges can be around students who leave things until the last minute. When they do that, that can become quite pressured because they have to do some sort of very specific things related to visa requirements, which if you have plenty of time can be done, in the right and the appropriate way.
Okay, most popular part-time job among students?
In terms of that, I would say the most popular job would be something that's relevant to your course.
Okay, so in connection to that, one skill student must develop before coming to the UK?
English.
One thing students regret not doing earlier?
Often students don't join our International Welcome Week. They arrive just before teaching, and that Welcome Week is, as the name suggests, is designed to welcome students, give them all those kind of basic information about everything they need to know about the UK, where to get help, where to register for the doctors. Often students miss out by doing that. And I think the other thing maybe would be we have lots of societies. We're here in Nepal. We have a Nepalese society at the university. Students maybe when they first go there don't know about that and they don't join. So I'd encourage students to look at the clubs, the societies we have, and join anything that they might be interested in. That would make them feel very much at home much quicker as well. Okay.
So if DMU was a student, how would you describe its personality?
I would describe it as going places. Absolutely. The university is a university that has been very successfully supporting students to have great careers and great lives, but we're constantly developing and enhancing the university and our offering to allow students to go further and adapting. So yeah, we're not just static. This is what we do. We're looking to develop based on what students' needs, but more importantly, what the global career job market is looking for from students, to make sure that when students leave DMU, they have those skills to go on.
So next segment, we have myth busting. So when it comes to UK, students hear a lot of things about UK. Not everything is true and not everything is myth either. So let's see myth number one on the screen. So students from South Asia struggle to adjust socially in the UK. So that means, does De Montfort has any community set up for those students who are coming far away from home? And then how do you help them adjust with the environment there in UK?
Okay, well, I think that's an area that we are particularly strong in, and I've kind of touched on that already, but I'll elaborate on that. So as I've already mentioned, the UK in general is very diverse in terms of international people living in the country. But DMU specifically, we're based in the city of Leicester. Leicester is that really international city, but specifically it's a South Asian city. And maybe I could share something personal here. The reason I live in Leicester is because my wife is from a South Asian background. So that gives you a perfect example. I'm there because of a South Asian background myself. I didn't actually come from Leicester, so that'll give you a really, really good example. So in terms of students feeling at home, the important thing at the start is we have a place which is already filled with communities where students can join those communities as they wish.
There we go. The next myth that's coming on screen is you must study in London to get good job opportunities. So that means, is it London that has more job opportunities, or Leicester is not far behind, and then students can expect some good job opportunities in Leicester as well?
Yeah, so that absolutely is a myth. So as I've already mentioned, our Leicester campus is actually very close to London anyway. But in terms of the city, we're in the southern part of the country. We are right next door to a motorway which is called the M1. The M1 was the first motorway in the UK. So historically, there have been either side of the M1 motorway very, very big international businesses. So if I talk about DMU, bear in mind there are lots of small businesses as well, but maybe some global brands, things like Rolls-Royce, Pepsi-Cola. One of the biggest retail businesses within the UK with a large global reach. There's an organisation called Next, you might have heard of. Their head office is in Leicester as well. So there are absolutely opportunities within the city and the surrounding area for those careers.
Okay, third myth would be only top-ranked universities matter for your career. So that means, how important is skills versus ranking of the university compared to, let's say, experience and industry exposures?
They're very much looking at what have they studied, what experience have they gained whilst they were studying, maybe the work that they were doing. They have a 18-month post-study work visa where they have the opportunity to work in the UK. Which organisation did they work? What skills have they gathered? And obviously, more those soft skills that I maybe mentioned about living generally in the UK. They understand, that culture. They know how to approach career opportunities. And maybe something that I haven't touched on is that we have a very heavy focus on supporting and preparing students to find those career opportunities. And so once again, that would be focused on that area to help students find those not only initial career opportunities, but those secondary ones, rather than just what is the ranking of that university.
Exactly. It's something all students are interested about, right? So it's part-time jobs. So now the myth is that part-time jobs distract students and affect students' academic performance.
I think we know that many students, particularly students from South Asia, it helps them if they can earn a little bit of money to support their living costs. Not to pay for their living costs, not to pay for their tuition, but to help things. So that can be advantageous from that perspective. There are strict rules in the UK around how much time you're able to work, which is actually, just for your information, is 20 hours. And the reason we've put that in place, not DMU, but in terms of the UK, is to make sure that we don't have a scenario where students are spending too much time working, which could be detrimental to their studies. So certainly in terms of that myth, by restricting the amount of time that they can work, it very much should not impact their academic studies. And also, as I mentioned a minute ago, in fact, if they can make sure that the work that they do is relevant, it actually can enhance potentially even their studies, but certainly after they finish their studies and what they go on to in terms of their careers.
Let's transition from Mythbuster segment to a Q&A. We have received few Q&A from our audiences who are watching us. So we'll go real quick. I think we're running out of time and then the episode will be too long. So let's quickly go through these questions and then answer the query that we have received from our audience. So the first question is, someone in the audience say that I come from a middle-class family and I'm worried about managing expenses in the UK. What practical advice would you give to students like me?
Okay, I think that's probably quite an easy one to answer. I would put that down either on a spreadsheet, or there are apps out there that can support you with that, so that you have the total money you have available and what your expenditure is going to be each month. And then if you can track that, you can ensure that you'll always be within the threshold of what is viable based on the money that you have available.
Very good advice, Martin. Next question would be, it's from someone who is very, very interested, but maybe due to some reason they don't have the perfect grade. She says that I don't have perfect grades, but I am very motivated to go to UK. Do I still have a chance to get into the Montfort University?
Okay, well, what I would say with our entry criteria is that the entry criteria is very much set at the level which will allow students to be successful. Okay. We would not be doing any students any favours by making that entry criteria too low, and then they arrive, they struggle, they don't enjoy the experience, and the worst possible case scenario, they're not able to complete the course. So what I would say in terms of that is our entry criteria is quite achievable for most students. And what I would say is don't be disheartened, have a look at what our specific entry criteria is by course, and you might be surprised to find that actually you do meet that criteria.
Okay, so if students meet the criteria and they get into DMU, then I think most likely they'll be successful in their careers, in their education, and then they can translate that into let's say the future, right? Absolutely. So there will be success coming out of it, but not that if you're not qualified, then maybe the Montfort will not be the university that you'll be getting into.
Yeah, I think in terms of you just need to get into that entry level at the beginning to make sure that you're not going to struggle. Once students are with us, we have absolutely fantastic academic staff that not are teaching them, but will nurture them and take them forward. And we've already talked about some of those other supports things that can also enhance students' experience and ultimately have the most successful outcome after leaving the university.
Let's take one more question and then we'll move on to our closing segment. As a first-time international student, I'm nervous about everything, studies, part-time jobs, living alone, and everything that comes to the mind. What should I focus on in the first 3 months?
Okay, I think I may have covered some of that, but certainly make sure that you travel to the UK in time for our International Welcome Week, which is normally just 1 week before teaching starts. Do that and you'll not only be given all the information that you'll need for support, but that's when all the other students arrive. And bear in mind, we talked at the beginning about the size of the university, around 24,000 students. So there are lots and lots of students who are all joining the same time from the UK. We have students from 130 countries around the world. So you're going to have an opportunity to really meet those people. And also, as I also mentioned, join the clubs, join the societies, have a look around the town to see what the town has to offer. And also the beautiful surrounding area, because you don't have to travel for very far outside of Leicester, and you're in the beautiful British countryside as well that has a lot to offer.
Thank you very much, Martin. Just an hour away from London, central London, Leicester, I think, is the place to be. And I think with the kind of university that you have there, international students with more than 50%, let's say 13,000 international students, none of the students will feel away from home, and then they'll get right kind of not just education but good global exposure and also good career opportunities that may come up from Leicester. So wishing all the students, I'd like to ask you one final advice to our audience, whoever is watching from wherever, it might be a student or a worried parent or anyone for that matter, one final advice that you want to give out to them in order to close this episode.
Yeah, I think what I'd say is have a look at our website, have a look at the detail of the course to make sure that that course is what you want. Listen to what local agents say, but also don't be afraid to reach out to the university. For instance, I have a team of 10 people who not only support students from an admissions process, but also support students in terms of asking those questions. DMU particularly, we're a very affordable university. We have things like guaranteed scholarships. Without wanting to talk too much about the specifics of money, for undergraduate students, we currently have a £2,000 guaranteed scholarship for every year of the undergraduate, so in effect a £6,000 scholarship. And then for postgraduate students, we have a £3,000 scholarship. And then if you have students that would like to pay maybe all of their tuition fee, we give an additional bonus of £500. So it makes the university quite affordable. But I think crucially for students, coming to study in the UK, coming to study in Leicester, for the student, but for their parents as well, I would describe it as an investment. It's an investment in your future. It's going to allow you to achieve your dreams much more easily and have that wonderful life that we obviously all want and we want our students to have.
Thank you very much, Martin. So he was Martin Booth, Senior Regional Manager for De Montfort University, Leicester. And then that was our episode for today. If you're watching this for the first time, this is Global EduTalks, where we'll connect university people, education leaders, and direct university representatives coming here, giving you information about the university, and not just you get scholarship out of it. If you scan the code that's coming on your screen, we will send you the entire university summary page, the booklet that will guide you through studying UK process, and also maybe you'll get interview questions that can prepare you well for your interview in order to get a visa for the UK. So in order to get all those all the package that you can get for free, scan the code, register, and we'll send that over to you in your inbox. If you have any questions at this point of time while you're watching, you can write down to us at help@globaledutalks.com, and then we'll answer. If I can answer, I'll answer. Otherwise, we have university experts like Martin coming in and answering the questions for you guys. Thank you for watching. This is Global EduTalks, your window to study abroad. I'm Jackson Subedi.